Hi.
Hello.
Oh my God, long time no see.
I know it's like we never cross paths anymore.
Would never. It's so weird.
So
It's so
ghetto.
weird. It's so weird. This is long overdue. What is your problem, bro? Why is it taking you so long to get to these podcast episodes?
Why it always gotta be my fault?
I mean, sure, I had emergency eye surgery,
Hmm.
which delayed us for about 6 weeks, but you probably should have planned better for that. I'm just saying, like
Mm,
you should have had it on the
I
plan.
see. I see. That's how we're playing this. Okay. It's fine. Yeah.
Ha. So
We are
now
one,
that
so
we're
we share the burden.
now that we're finally back,
Finally.
um,
Yeah.
after me having three surgeries on my eye in one day, um, it looks it looks like an eye now.
Looks great.
Thank you.
It
Um,
looks amazing.
Now we can continue with season 9 of That Black Couple.
Yeah. Let's
Yes,
do it.
episode 2 about being black and poly with kids. So I'm excited about this. We're going to answer questions that folks have been asking us. But first, let's do our introductions. This is episode 2 of That Black Couple. Please grab your water. We are over 40 now. We drink water because most of my life I was dehydrated. I feel like I'm just accepting that I spent my whole 20s dehydrated. Have a seat. I'm Jen.
I'm Darren.
Before we get started, please make sure you are following us on all of the platforms that we actually support, which are Threads and Instagram at That BLK Couple, on Facebook at That Black Couple, and look us up on the internets at www.thatblackcouple.com.
And you already know you can find us everywhere the podcasts are streamed. That means like all of the big platforms. So SoundCloud. You can find us on Apple iTunes. Any place you can find, um, any place you can find podcasts, any place you listen to your podcast, you can find us there. But more importantly, you can definitely catch us on YouTube.
Yes.
So I fully recommend that you go catch us on YouTube. That you go in, you log in, you subscribe, you like the stuff that we put together. We worked very hard putting this podcast together, as we always have, and now that we are a video podcast, the responsibility and the charge is much greater. And I'm happy to report that I think we're doing a great job. Um, and I would just really appreciate if you would view it, like it, and support it. Thank you very, very, very much.
Okay, Pastor Jackson. Um, but on the YouTube, yeah, Color Combos Media on YouTube. It has all of our podcasts. It has this podcast, all the episodes going back into the dawn of time, and our sister podcast, We Publish Beloved. So absolutely subscribe, like, share. The big one, share. Encourage other folks to subscribe as well. Okay. So this episode I feel like is long overdue. We've gotten so many questions about being polyamorous with our kids, a part of the dynamic. Let's get started with first things first, Darren. Background on this episode. How do we come to this episode?
I mean, you just said it. We came to this episode because people keep asking us questions. They keep asking, "How do y'all do that? What do you do with kids? How can someone be polyamorous with kids? Aren't you just exposing them to all sorts of trauma and danger and hurt and harm? And how do you parent them through that? What do you tell them? What do you not tell them? Like so many questions. Um, and we're going to put those questions to rest today, and we're going to answer.
I think also it's not even just like the strangers who ask us these questions. It's people who love us, who are like in close proximity to us and who are just like, wow, now that I'm a parent, I don't know how the hell you managing all this stuff. So I think there is something that we need to talk about around demystifying polyamorous dynamics. I don't know why folks act like we're aliens or something, as if we don't have the same number of hours in a day and the same technology with calendared capabilities. Like, we all have access to the same stuff. I think it's just a matter of reframing how we think about it.
Yeah, and I mean, you really just said it. It's about understanding what polyamorous relationships even look like. What does that even mean, right? And if someone doesn't have that baseline understanding,
Hmm.
then questioning, well, then how do kids factor into that? Like that's way far outside of what their reach is and what their understanding is, right? And so you do have to understand, like, the polyamorous relationships just like every other relationship, they're all unique. They're all different, have their own dynamics. They have their own challenges, right? All of those very real things are there, whether it's a monogamous or a polyamorous relationship. Um, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit, but also like the same thing happens with parenting. Like all your kids are different. They have their own needs and challenges. What you share with them, how you share with them, like these things are universal constants, no matter what the parentage looks like. Single parent, monogamous parents, polyamorous parents,
Queer parents.
guardianships, like all of the same rules apply, right? And it's just in this instance, people might need to get a little bit more clarity on what that looks like and what it means.
That's right. Okay. Let's get started then. Let's go to the conversation.
Let's do the conversation. And I love, love, love to start these conversations with some facts and some figures. I am a numbers man. I like to have some facts to back up whatever I'm saying. I feel like a lot of podcasts, you watch them and you might watch them for that reason that they kind of just come on and they just say whatever their opinions are, right? And there's some entertainment in just saying whatever's on your mind or whatever you think and believe in it. That alone carries weight and merit, right? And there's some truth to that. However, right here on that black couple, we always ground our conversations in some facts, right?
Right.
It's not just what we think, it's not just what our ideas are. These thoughts and beliefs and the things that we're sharing with y'all, they come from a real place. In this instance, I actually looked up two different studies that were done in relationship to polyamorous families. The first one I'm going to highlight was published in the Cornell Journal of Law and Public Policy. It was published in 2021, and it was just about polyamorous families and the interests of the kids, right? Again, really focusing on the kids today, not just on the parents or the guardians or whoever, but actually how does the polyamory factor into a child's life?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there were some interesting findings there. Obviously, like I just said, polyamorous families, just like any family, can have both
Mm-hmm.
positive and negative impacts, right? That's
Yes.
just life. That's what comes with life. Um, it also, as a qualifier, said that a polyamorous family means that there's a family with multiple, meaning more than two adult caregivers, right? So that
Right.
means it
Right.
could be three, it could be five, it could be 10,
Right.
right? But the idea
Yes.
is it's not just like a nuclear household of two parents, two and a half kids and a picket fence. It's like at least three adult caregivers are present.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what this study found is that what happens in these households is that they are treated in the eyes of the law very similarly to how other non-normative families have been treated in the past. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to think about queer families, you want to think about mixed race families, right? In the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the state, right? They were kind of just demonized from the outset, right? Whether or not that was real, like unilaterally, if a family looked that way, that meant that something was inherently wrong with it.
Right.
Um, but the empirical evidence that comes out in the study basically says that these types of polyamorous families have like emotional, physical, and material benefits to kids that you might not even get in some of these other family styles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just think about that. If you're in a polyamorous family setup, right, that means you don't just have one or two parents, you might have three or more. That means there's more
Mm-hmm.
people that you can go to and talk about your problems and issues. There's more people to watch smaller kids. There's potentially more streams of income coming into the house. It
Mm-hmm.
also means that all of those streams of income are being shared amongst one group as opposed to multiple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just on the outset, just really on some really, really clear evidence, right? There's some clear upsides to a polyamorous setup.
Yeah. And I just want to jump in right now and make clear, like we have a non-traditional queer non-gender roly polyamorous dynamic, even though you are heterosexual and monogamous, right? So the fact that I am queer and polyamorous, and you technically, yeah, let's not get into the queerness conversation because asexuality is on the queer spectrum, but we're not talking about that today.
Right, not today.
But we have a queer way of building family, right? And so I in this conversation, when I hear the definition of polyamorous being about having multiple parents in the household or multiple adults in the household to rear young children, I'm like, a lot of people have polyamorous looking families. They just don't call it that, right? Like,
Yes.
I think about people who have sisters, aunties, uncles, cousins, friends living in the house. Even I think about your mom, right? Whose best friend and soror has lived in the house for 25 years, and your mom has helped raise her daughter, right? I consider her daughter my niece, right? And so when we were living in the home early on in our relationship, as we were waiting for our home to be built, we were helping raise her as well, right? We were changing diapers, we were making food, we were making bottles. Like all those things were part of the kind of equation of being in this household. So I also sometimes want to just kind of disabuse people of the idea that it has to do with all these people having sex together, right? Like
Right.
that's not what it is, right? Loving multiple people and sharing a loving household with multiple people does not mean you are sleeping with all the people. That's not what it's about. I can't emphasize that enough, right? And so it's really important that we don't lean on stereotypes and tropes and like things that people have seen on HBO specials, or whatever. We're in a relationship and this is our girlfriend and all that weird stuff, right?
Like that Neo stuff.
Yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like it's not that's actually not how a lot of ethically non-monogamous people and polyamorous people live our lives. That those are the loudest and I guess most popular people that people want to talk about. And social media does kind of lend itself to that. But and a real dynamic for those of us who have children, we are thinking about the safety and protection of our kids. So we're not going to just have anybody up over here around our children, not around here. We're not doing that, right? And when we think about what the role is of everyone in the household, the idea is that it's a socialist environment. Everyone is contributing according to their capacity and ability, right? So, yeah, they may be paying bills, they may be cooking meals, they may be cleaning up, they may be doing pickups of the children, like all of that stuff. And so, it's really about kind of thinking about the household in a way that is more communal, right? It's a communal household where everyone has a role, everyone has a position that is valuable and important. And it's not just about the romantic and the attraction and the desire.
Right. Because relationships are far broader than that.
That's
And I
right.
think this is a clear example of why we as people, and to me, especially as Black people, need to always be thinking a little bit more expansively than that. And most commonly because, as you kind of pointed out, a lot of times we end up living in those lifestyles anyway, right?
Anyway,
Sometimes grandma is taking care of the kids
right,
today. And then sometimes, auntie over here is going to pick up the kids from school because I
right,
got to work late, right? That's the
right.
same type of mentality. It's just looking at it more from the perspective of love.
That's right. That's right. And to be clear, like a lot of the reason why people don't want to identify as poly or identify as queer is because of the internalized homophobia that they have and the internalized orientation toward compulsory monogamy, right? Like it's the internal church pastor speaking in your head. It's the internalized patriarchy. Like all of that stuff is the real reason why folks don't want to call these dynamics what they are, right? If you have a friend who lives in your house, who you are best friends with, and you love this person and you want to do everything in your life with this person, and you also want to raise kids with this person, but you also have a partner and you boo, that is a polyamorous dynamic. I don't care what you say, you're not gonna convince me nothing otherwise. I'm sorry. Like it just is what it is. And I think we have to really start thinking about when kids are involved in these dynamics, also how we message it to them, right? Like in ways that don't cast shame or like that don't diminish certain types of households, right? Like that don't make it seem like having a heteronormative monogamous household is the standard bearer for having a healthy family because the data doesn't support that.
No, it doesn't. And that takes me right into my next study too, because there was a study. It was published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, published in 2024. And in this study, they actually did structured interviews with 18 children who are living in polyamorous households. And this one, to me, it was so illuminating because it really just actually, in a lot of cases, spoke to some of our realities, right? First up, it showed that broadly the children expressed positive attitudes about the parents' romantic partners,
Hmm.
right? Like in general, the kids, regardless of age, were like this is a person we like. This is not something that is hurtful or harmful to me. Right? They didn't really have those type of really strong negative opinions, which I feel like outsiders generally believe. They generally believe if there's polyamory going on, the kids are at home and they're being abused, they're being neglected, they're seeing things that they shouldn't see. Right? They have all of these like negative, sick ideas that pop up. When in reality, the kids are like, "This is great." When you dig in a little bit deeper, the younger children actually tended to have even more positive relationships and thoughts about the romantic partners, and I feel like that just makes sense, right? They're younger, they have less experience, right? You know, their worldview is being built day by day, moment by moment, um, and realistically, they're probably like, "Hey, I got someone else that can buy me
More
gifts on
people
my
to play
birthday.
with.
I got
Right.
someone that can take me to the park, you
Right.
know, after school when maybe my mom couldn't do that before. You know, I got someone else. Oh, they make that bomb lasagna, and you know, we used to have Stouffer's every night, right? Like that's I'm just saying like that's the type of thing that makes sense for a younger child to have those types of feelings. Um, and that's the thing, right? That's someone else around them, someone else to give them love, care, and support. And younger kids are obviously going to really appreciate that. Um, Teenagers tended to they weren't as positive on the scale of kind of liking, you know, the parents' partners, which obviously makes sense. I mean, teenagers tend to just
They
generally
don't
not
like
like things
nothing. Teenagers don't
anyway.
like nothing.
Um, but also, you know, if you think about the potential of we had our lifestyle, our life in our home ran one way, and now it's changing. Now there's a new dynamic. Now there's something else I have to adjust to. Now there's something else I have to figure out. Right? Generally, you know, teenagers are going to be somewhat resistant to that. But more than that, what really came out in the study, which I found really interesting, was that teenagers overall they were most concerned about social stigma.
Mhm.
So it really wasn't even like, oh, I hate this person or why are they taking up space in my house?
Mhm.
Like that was really not a big thing that came up. It was really more so, what are other people going to think? What are people outside of my house going to think? What are my friends going to think? What are my teachers going to think? What like all of those social societal pressures? Those were the things that they were more concerned about, not what was actually happening inside the home. And I think that is the thing that makes the most sense.
That makes so much sense to me, right? Like, and then that also puts the onus on people outside of these dynamics to shut the hell up and
Yes.
stop making folks feel weird about how we love and how we live our lives, right? It's like I really do wish that folks didn't lean so much into stigma, right? Because they could live more authentic lives. Like as an autistic person, I don't really worry about stigma. I don't care what people think, so I don't even notice half the time, right? But like for young people in my teens, I did. I was very hyper aware of what people thought about me, right? And so a lot of what children are experiencing when their parents are in non-traditional dynamics is the ways that other people project and other people make assumptions and other people diminish, right? And that can be internalized for a lot of young people. We teach young people how to have shame, right? Like we teach them, oh, that's something you should be ashamed of. That's something you should be proud of. So when you are engaging with young people whose parents are queer or whose parents are polyamorous or whatever it might be, and you're like, ooh, how does that work? Oh, ooh. Or even when you're engaged with the parents, you're like, ooh, what about your kids? What the hell do you mean, what about my kids? I don't even, whenever I get the question, I don't even understand that. I'm like, what about them? I don't involve my kids in my romantic life. It's like, do you go home and tell your kids what's happening on your dates? Do you give them a debrief of what about your
I
kids?
hope not.
What about, what about your kids? Like I'm wondering, so I think, you know, exposing children to like healthy, respectful, responsible people who have their best interests is not dangerous. And it cracks me up sometimes because I'll be talking to like black folk who ain't worried about their uncles and their cousins being around their kids because a lot of the harm in black communities comes from them cousins
Mm-hmm.
and that one uncle that we don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of ways that folks will bend over backwards, bend themselves into pretzels to make sure that one abusive ass Uncle Chester can still come to the cookout. But then they want to look at me crazy because I'm polyamorous. I'm like, y'all, your priorities not together.
They're not in alignment. right? And that's the thing, right? Because we're all adults, right? And so if we believe because someone is polyamorous that there might be something bad or nefarious going on in that household, or the children might not be cared for in the way that they should, right? We are basically saying that being polyamorous is a marker for badness. Just in the same way people used to say, gay people are just deviants. They're just conducting all this deviant behavior. They're criminals. They're just bad, sinful, right? So if we're just gonna do that, then we need to be looking at everybody, because
Come on.
everybody has some type of behavior that's a marker for something else, right? And so basically this rolls us into the thinking of, well, then everyone needs to have inspections.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to have someone that comes in and inspects their house and makes sure the kids are cared for.
Because here's the thing. You and I grew up in monogamous households. Everybody in my family, for the most part, hella monogamous. And the number of stories I can tell you about harms and violence and kids being treated poorly and, hella divorces. And I'm like, so are we suggesting that the monogamous people are doing well at this? Like, the number of traumatized as adult people who I have met who grew up in very heteronormative, very monogamous households is innumerable. I can't even count it, right?
We're just suggesting that type of deviance is okay.
That's okay.
That's what we're saying. If we're
That's
if we're being
okay.
really honest with ourselves, that's what we're
Right.
saying.
If you fuck your kids up, but you straight and monogamous while you do it, that's fine. That's
It's
fine.
okay.
Bro, what? Do y'all hear
Those harms are
yourselves?
passable.
That's weird. That's weird. That's weird. And then what also bothers me about it is like our household is great. Our family's great. Like everyone's happy or whatever. But I know that if something were to happen, they'd be like, well, that's because
Mm-hmm.
Jen gay and polyamorous. You see what I'm saying? It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's the part that I'm like, there's a kind of moralistic, ethical judgment commitment that's happening here that's not borne out by the actual lives that people are living. I think about Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith all the time, and they clearly have their own little whatever, but everybody seems fine. So why y'all so stressed? Like everybody seems pretty happy. They're still together. They're doing what they want to do. They have one of the longest lasting marriages in Hollywood. So
Mm-hmm.
why y'all so pressed? Why y'all so pressed? What
And
is it because they're living
honestly, and that's why I kind
authentically?
of feel like Will and Jay is a perfect example where everyone was championing this relationship. Like, oh my God, this is black love. This is what it looks like. Look at these celebrities sticking it out, having a family, being with each other, stepkids, baby mamas. Like they are together. They are showing it right. And then the information started to come out, and then it was so interesting to see people turn to hoping for destruction.
Hoping and putting
And
it
it's like
all on
as if
Jada.
all that history just
Right. And
was
putting it
negated
all
and
on
didn't
Jada. It's
exist.
like Jada's the villain. Jada had a boyfriend. Y'all,
Yeah, like,
please grow up. The number of y'all whose daddies got side families.
yeah. We're basically saying it's okay if you try to keep it a secret. Not even that it's kept a secret. If you try to keep it a secret, but if you're upfront and honest and you actually build a structure around it
Right.
and you get consent from everyone, that's when there's a problem. Like
It's
it is.
it's
I'm sorry. It just don't
it's
make
the
sense to me.
praising of deception for me.
Yeah.
Like, y'all out here cheating on each other. Oh, I found out when I was 25 I had a sister. Girl, and we the same age.
Yeah.
Girl. So
What
I'm
about
not.
the kid? What about the kids?
What about the kids? I'm gonna start saying that to heterosexuals. So how does that work with the kids? Ooh,
it's just
monogamy.
it's just two of
Ooh,
y'all.
ooh. Who who's taking care of the kids when you're at work? Ooh, like, because that's how ridiculous it sounds. How folks build their families is their business, and as long as the kids are happy, healthy, and safe, that's all that should matter.
Then who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? All
Are you
right.
ready for the reflection?
Yeah, I'm ready to reflect. I'm having so much fun this episode.
I know.
I'm so glad that we're back.
I know.
Um, back to the foolery that we like to get into. Um, and I will say for the reflection, I was just thinking about doing something a little bit different.
Okay.
I feel like we always sit here and we kind of reflect on what we talked about and we give our kind of personal experience and how it factors in. Today, I thought I would just do something different and just actually ask you some questions. Some of the questions that people ask about polyamory and parenting, and just get your perspective. I'll probably chime in a little bit. But I feel like we need to have some pointed answers to some of these questions that come up.
Okay, child. Let's. Okay. Let's.
Okay, so the first one is Do your kids have any concern about you being in polyamorous relationships?
Interesting. Um, the only concern the only concern my child has is only one child, my youngest child, our youngest child, has ever asked was, "Mommy, are you and Daddy getting divorced?" This was about 10 years ago. Um, no, this would have been 10 years ago. Oh, that's too far. This would have been about 6 years ago. And he was like 6 or 7 years old. And I told him I was going to be dating and I had, a person I liked. And he was like, "What about Daddy?" And I was like, "Daddy's cool with it. Daddy good. Ain't no problems." He was like, "Are y'all getting divorced?" And I was like, "Nah." He was like, "Cool." And then turned around and played video games. And I was like, "You don't have no
Done.
questions. You don't want to know anything else?" And he was like, "No, it's okay. If Daddy's okay with it, I'm okay with it." And I was like, "Okay." I mean, literally, their only concern has ever been stability. Like, is our household going to be okay? Are we going to be safe? Is this going to disrupt our lives in any way? Are you going to get a new family? Are you going to leave us? Like, that's the concern. And once they saw the answer was hell no, absolutely the fuck not, they're like, "Girl, just be safe out there because dating is not cute and you have bad discernment. So you go out there and you do better, mommy. Do better,
And
mommy."
I was gonna say that's the other concern is like that person's not cute.
That person ugly, mommy.
They not right for you.
Mommy. Mommy, she don't read enough books, mommy. That's not gonna work for me. If you're gonna date somebody, she needs to read books. I'm like, "You right."
They're like, mommy, I know you a bird, but don't fall for it. Don't. That's the ongoing concern. Is
I
like, are you
know.
picking the right people?
Like,
Right.
"Mommy, stop falling for them pretty girls." I'm like, "You said the one I was dating was ugly and now I can't fall for the pretty one. What do I do? What's the?"
The standard is high,
Its standard's high.
and it should be
It should be.
because they know you well.
That's right. And I think another part of this is like, you address children at their level of maturity, right? Like my son, our oldest child is 18 now. There's things we can talk about with him that we can't talk to the 14-year-old about and the 12-year-old about, right? And there's things he's interested in. There's questions he has, like who is this person? What's their job? Where can I find them on the internet? He want to do his own sleuthing, you know what I'm saying? And that's a different conversation than I would have with my seventh grader, And so I think a lot of it, what people don't understand is that, especially non-monogamous people, polyamorous people, we're making the same decisions about our children and their safety that everyone else is making. Because why? We love our kids. We love our kids. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but we hold our kids down. Frankly, our kids are the most important thing here, right? And so
Right.
I think there's this misconception that people just want to be out in the streets and and then their kids be damned. And I'm like, well, I don't know her.
Yeah.
I don't know her.
Not over here.
Not over here.
Okay, that was a good one. All right. So, second question.
Yes.
Um, how do we teach our kids about polyamory?
Ooh, I love this. I think I'm a little biased because I'm a gender sexuality professor, and the kids done told me that I act like Alexa all the time. So I like to describe everything. I'm like, under the umbrella of ethical non-monogamy are these different types of non-monogamy. And this is what it means to be a swinger. And this is what it means. Like, I like to do that. And so I teach my kids the same way I teach my college students, right? With what is appropriate for them developmentally, but also letting them know, actually, there's just a lot of different ways to show up in our relationships. There's a lot of different ways to show up in romance. And we've talked to them about this since they were small, like little, like even when we're talking about gender. You don't have to be one of two genders. Like you might not agree that you're the gender that people said you were at birth. Like, and that's cool, right? Like you decide what your gender is. And you might not be monogamous, right? And that's okay. But figure out what you are and we'll work through that too, right? It's like I think the way I teach them is by saying like, "Hey, I want you to start at like how do I feel about myself, right? Like who is my truest self? What's most authentic to me?" And then we can explore on ways how you can manifest that in your interpersonal dynamics. Our kid might be asexual. What does it mean to be asexual in a society, that privileges sex on everything, in every book, in every movie, every TV show, right? And I think about you and how when you were a kid, you didn't really have nobody to really talk to you about that kind of stuff, right? So you had to be an adult in your 30s and navigating what it meant to be a black man and be asexual and everybody, the judgments of people, right? So really we teach our kids about polyamory the same way you teach them about being human.
Mm, that's it right there. That's it.
right? Like, I want you to be fully human. I want you to be fully in your body. I want you to feel safe in the decisions you make for yourself. And polyamory might be a part of that, and it might not.
And honestly, and now what I was going to say, you know, adding on to what you said about basically teaching them like they're a student in your class, is also just through exposure, right? Through them watching you live your life, through them watching you interact with people, through them asking you questions,
Right,
through you saying it's going to work this way because X, and not just because I said so, but giving
right,
an actual explanation. Right? You let your
right.
kids in, like you said, in an age appropriate way, but letting your kids in to so they can have an understanding. That's what understanding is. It's
That's
like
right.
exposing someone to the mechanisms and the levers that get you to some type of end result, right?
That's right.
And that's why when our youngest son was like, "Is Daddy okay? Are y'all getting divorced?" And you were like, "No." He's like, "Good,"
And
and
listen,
because
and
that
when
means he got it.
I think back to my grandmother before she passed away, and that's what she asked me too. I said, "Grandma, I'm polyamorous. I'm not a monogamous person." She was like, "How's Darren?" And I was like, "He fine." She was like, "Cool." That should be to me. That should be the answer. You know why? Because you the person I'm married to. I don't
Yeah,
understand. I don't get it. I
everyone
don't
want to
get
be in
it.
your business.
Right. And now that the kids understand, they cool with it too. So I think what people have to really start thinking about is like, what part of this conversation is about me and my body and how I feel uncomfortable about polyamory and I feel uncomfortable about queerness and non-traditional dynamics are scary to me because I haven't explored them. And what part is actual concern, right?
Right.
Like what part is actual concern? Because did you see something with the kids? Are the kids not doing well in school? Are they having issues with behavior? Like, are there any indicators? You see any bruises? Like, that's the stuff that should be like, what about the kids?
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
about all the times in my monogamous ass household where nobody was paying attention to none of that.
Hmm. Hmm. And they should have been.
It's suspicious.
If they care about the kids, they should have
They should have been. I was on the damn streets and they was like, well, she at church, so it must be fine.
been.
What?
Messed up. All right. Let me get to the last kind of section here. I want to ask about not just like our household, but now bringing a partner into the conversation, right? Like what happens if your partner has kids? Like, and what if they're not having the same level of conversation with their kids that you're having with your own children? What happens if y'all break up and
Hmm.
now these kids have forged bonds with not just the partner, but also with the partner's kids? And now, how do we manage all of that? So, like, the big question is like, how do you manage now this partner who now has to be integrated into your life in some way, especially if there are kids involved on both ends?
Yeah. I love this question because I think it's a weird question because heteronormative and monogamous people have to do the same thing. You date somebody, they got kids fall in love with each other, you break up, you got to negotiate what that looks like. It's a very simple. It's a very when you're an emotionally mature adult, you have the conversation. Hey, so we're going to transition out of this romantic part of our relationship. Do you want to remain friends? Do you want to remain in contact? Okay, yes, no, cool. We have children. How do you feel about them remaining in contact? What would you prefer? What's safest for the kids? Do we have some agreements about how that's going to look? It's not complicated, right? And, I would hope that you are not coupling with someone in a polyamorous dynamic or otherwise who is not emotionally mature enough to have those conversations. Now, I've done it. I'll never do it again.
Yeah, it happens. You live and you
Yeah,
learn.
I'll never do it again, right? And I think the real answer here, right, around like, is your partner's kind of maturity around polyamory the same as yours? That's a really good question because frankly, a lot of people come to polyamory different ways, right? There are people who, are in a marriage and they're like, oh, I want to spice it up. Let's get a girlfriend. Like, the, you could stay over there. Um, there are people who are earnestly like, this is how I love, and I think this is a better fit for me than what I've done. And that's interesting. And it could be early in the journey, they could be very further along, right? These are conversations you have to be having with partners as you are moving through whatever your relationship dynamic is, platonic, romantic, or otherwise, right? And then before you introduce them to your children, because they don't have to meet your children, you do
Hmm.
not have to blend families. Everybody don't have the range to be the Brady Bunch,
And again,
right?
that's polyamorous or monogamous relationships. Same rules apply.
Okay? And I will argue on the Brady Bunch, the maid was the third in that household.
Yeah.
I'll just
Basically, I mean, if you really think about polyamory, that's kind of what it's like. I mean, obviously she was getting paid, she was an employee, right? There's
sure,
that factor, but
sure,
it's
but she was real intimate with
similar,
the family.
right? Like that was a third parental figure in the
Right.
household.
Right. Everybody don't have the emotional range to do that. Everybody don't have it, right? And so I think people have to do better assessments around, does this person have a right to be around my child? Should I even have children with this person? Should I start a family with this person in this polyamorous dynamic? Is it something that they're experimenting with and they just got here and they're like, yeah, I want to have a baby. Girl, maybe we should wait a few years. Like
Hmm.
I'm very much like, if it works today, it'll certainly work tomorrow. Right? Like time doesn't do anything but make things better. So I think it's a lot about maturity. It's about
Yeah.
maturity. It's not about the dynamic. It's about people actually coming to the table and saying, I'm not here to do harm. I'm here to look out. I'm here to protect. I'm here to potentiate. I want everyone in this dynamic to be their best self. And if you are moving in a monogamous dynamic and that's not the case, it'll crumble and burn. And the
Hmm.
same thing goes for polyamory.
It's same all the way around.